Looking around on Reddit, and there's a question about expanding an EBS volume into Ubuntu. That's basically taking the existing disk and adding size to it. I'm going to try to answer this question. I don't see what could go wrong. All right, here's the question. They're asking how to expand an EBS volume in Ubuntu. The EBS volume is basically the disk that is presented to an instance or the virtual machine on AWS. Before I begin, I want to remind you that this will affect your hard disk. If you do something wrong, you will lose all your data. So please back up your data before doing anything that I say in this video. And before you do anything, you want to go and you want to back up your volume. Just go to docs.aws.amazon.com and search for backing up your volumes. They have instructions on how to back up any volume that you have. Once you've backed up that volume, you want to connect to your instance through the console. And they also have documentation on how to connect through the console. You want to connect through the console because if you make a mistake and you're connected over SSH, it'll drop the connection and you may not get in. So just remember, back up the volume and then connect over the console. Okay, I've got a Debian system here that I've increased the size of the partition. As you can see here, this is a 50 gig disk, and the actual Linux partition on it is only about 30 gigs. So that means there's about 20 gigs of free space on here. Now I did the fdisk-L because I wanted to see if I had an extended partition. If you have an extended partition, you also have to increase the size of that extended partition. In this case, I have the extended partition SDA2, and then the Linux partition is on SDA5. Some of the commands that you'll need are fdisk. That's going to tell you what your partitions are. If you've got logical volume management going, you're going to see what your volumes are also. Both of my volumes are on SDA5. But since I have an extended partition, I'm going to have to extend both of them. Another command that you can use is lsblk. That also shows you your partitions, but it does not show the extended partition. If you have an extended partition, you have to grow that first and then grow the other partition. The last command that you'll need is df-ht. That's going to show you where things are mounted. Here's my root system. File system type is a ext4. And this is the actual mount point that it's mounted on. So back to fthis-l. The first thing we want to do is we want to grow this extended partition and then grow the next partition behind it. You can tell it's an extended partition because the start and end sectors are the same. The command that you use to extend the partition is called growpart. It's not installed on this system, so you have to go out and install the guest utilities. Let me copy it from over here. apt install cloud guest utils will install the guest utilities. If you're running a Red Hat based system, it's cloud-utils-growpart. So I will install growpart. Now I'm going to show you what happens if you don't grow the extended partition. So normally the command is growpart dev sda and then the partition number. So if I was just going to try to grow this Linux LVM partition, it will say it changed. It'll say new size and everything. It looks like it did something. But when you go back and look at it, you see that the partition size is still the same. But if you go ahead and grow the extended partition, you'll see now that the extended partition has taken up the rest of that free space that's on the partition. But you see that the Linux partition still is the original size, so that's when you have to extend that partition. So now you've done a grow part on both partitions, and both have increased to 50 gigabytes. Now, since we're running LVM, we have to increase the size. Well, we're extending the size of the physical volume. So you use PV display to look at your volumes. Here's the volume name. And you can see that it's only 29 gigabytes. Now also make note of the volume group name that's there. So you have to go in and increase the size of the physical volume. Now, when you're dealing with the physical volume, you're only looking at the Linux partition. You're not looking at the extended partition. So we're only concerned with dev SDA5. And the command is PV. Well, let's look at it again. PV display. So remember, we've got 29 gigs here. So we're going to resize the physical volume. You get the message that one volume was resized. So if you run PV display again, you see your size has changed to 49 gigs. Now, this physical volume also belongs to this volume group called Debian 7865-BG. I go and look at my volume groups. You can see the volume group is already at the 50 gig size, so you don't have to resize the volume group. What you have to do is look at the logical volume. Here is your logical volume, which is root, and you can see that it's 28 gigs in size. So we have to take that logical volume and increase the size of it. So we're going to use this very long command that I'm going to cut and paste. So you're going to LV resize, and you want to use all the available extra space on the partition. And you have to use the name of the logical volume. Well, I'm sorry, the path to the logical volume, which is here. So I'm going to resize that. Get the message that it changed from 28 to 48. So when you go back and look at that logical volume, it's now 48 gigs in size. Now that you've resized the partitions, your physical volumes, and your logical volumes, you need to extend the file system. As you can see here, I have a ext4 file system, and it's currently 28 gigs in size, and this is the mount point for it. So to resize that file system, use the resize to fs command. Resize to fs works with ext2, 3, and 4 systems. If you're resizing xfs, it uses xfs_grow_fs. If you're doing some other file system like btrfs, just Google how to resize that file system. All right, it says online resizing required. It says the file system is now X box long. So we can do your df, let's clear that first. When you do your df-ht, see that your file system is now 48 gigs. Go back and do your fdisk-l. See that it's also 48 gigs here. So now you've resized the file system. The last thing to do is to do a reboot. Make sure everything comes back okay. After system has rebooted, I'm going to go in and check the files again. Of course, you have to type the right password. See, you still got the 48 gig system there. .48 gig system there. And that should be all you have to do to resize the file system. Hopefully that was easy for you to follow. If you have any comments or suggestions, please leave them below. Thank you for watching.